evening and welcome to 1010, your top 10 news in 10 minutes. I'm Andy Hong. Belgian capital Brussels was put under lockdown on Saturday as a part of the ongoing manhunt for those responsible for the Paris terror attacks. The manhunt has seen some good progress. On Wednesday, French authorities raided a Paris suburb in an operation that resulted in 2 suspects killed and 8 detained. 7 of the arrested were released, and it is reported that the ringleader of the terrorists in the attack, Abdelhamid Abaoud, was among the dead. Hundreds of other searches have been conducted and dozens have been detained, as some of the terrorists responsible for last Friday's attack had lived in Belgium, and Brussels has seen some extremist-based terrorist attacks in recent years. Belgian authorities took no chances in securing the entire Brussels area. Large public events were advised to be called off, and the metro was shut down until Sunday. The manhunt is also on in the West African nation of Mali, where forces are hunting 3 suspects for the deadly terror attacks in a hotel in Bamako. At least 21 were killed, including 2 terrorists, after special forces burst in and helped free dozens of guests. Al-Qaeda and its affiliates claimed responsibility for the attack. Malian President Ibrahim Boubacar declared that the nation will maintain 10 days of a state of emergency and observe 3 days of mourning. Among the dead were an Israeli, an American, 2 Belgians, 3 Chinese, and 6 Russians. Ever since the ethnic Tuareg rebellion in 2011, radical Islamist attacks have plagued Mali. The UN force that was deployed in the summer of 2013 has somewhat stabilized the situation, but intermittent attacks continue. More than 10,000 UN troops are currently working in Mali, according to UN figures. Soon after it was found out that ISIS was responsible for both the terror attacks in Paris and the bombing of a Russian passenger jet, both nations ramped up their bombing efforts against the terrorist groups. France by sending its aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle to the East Mediterranean, and Russia by deploying its tactical heavy bombers to drop conventional bombs and cruise missiles on ISIS targets instead of the nuclear weapons that they were designed to carry. The hacktivist group Anonymous also declared full war on ISIS, shutting down the terrorist Twitter accounts with goals to completely disrupt all means of the group to recruit new militants through the internet. Many are now anticipating China to be involved after Chinese and Norwegian nationals were executed by ISIS. China has lashed out verbally but hasn't made any belligerent moves, unusual since the Communist Party has been known to be able to carry its words over to action. Earlier this week, Chinese forces in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Province killed 17 people, including 7 women and children, for terrorism charges for a deadly coal mine attack. But for now, the Chinese remain hands-free on the ISIS issue. Meanwhile, all of these developments overseas have produced direct results back in the United States. The House of Representatives voted against accepting 10,000 Syrian refugees by placing numerous restrictions and extremely close screening. Meanwhile, North Canada is working toward accepting 11,300 Syrians and 23,000 Iraqis, which still pales to the refugee efforts of Germany, which plans to take in 800,000. All Republicans voted in favor of the restrictions, along with numerous Democrats, to bring the vote to 289 to 137. But the real issue here is the xenophobic and Islamophobic comments that have been thrown around as of late. Suggestions that we should only accept Christian refugees or that we must increase surveillance on mosques. At this rate, we should return the Statue of Liberty to France or something. In Bangladesh, 2 opposition leaders, Ali Hassan Mohammed Mujahid and Saladin Qadir Chowdhury, were executed for war criminal charges of genocide and rape during the 1971 independence struggle against Pakistan. Charges also include arson, religious persecution, abduction, and murder. Although Chowdhury was found guilty of the charges 2 years ago and Mujahid was sentenced in the summer of 2013, people are still divided over the proceedings. The Bangladeshi government called the execution absolutely necessary for justice, while the opposition party called it a purely political act against Mujahid and Chowdhury's affiliates. And human rights groups cast doubts on whether or not the trial had met international standards. 5 people, including 2 journalists and a Monsignor, were charged by the Vatican for leaking and publishing classified documents. The documents were cited in the journalists' books, highlighting corruption in the Vatican. Authorities accused the 2 for exerting pressure to obtain the information, unquote. One of the journalists, Emiliano Fittipaldi, expressed dismay at the Vatican's decision to, in his words, investigate those who revealed the crimes instead of those who were denounced for them. The maximum sentence that the 5 could receive is up to 8 years in prison. The Midwest is feeling winter coming on now as we approach Thanksgiving week. Storms across the northern Midwest dumped 3 to 20 inches of snow in Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana. More than 500 flights have been canceled and more snow seems to be on the way for later today. Ice buildup led authorities to advise drivers to stay off the roads, while here in California we're still yet to see some legit rain. Come on, El Nino, work your magic. The Center for Disease Control announced that 6 states are now affected by the E. coli outbreak in Chipotle restaurants before it was announced that most of the outbreak was in Oregon and Washington, with some from Minnesota. But now cases have been reported from California, Ohio, and New York. There are 45 patients in the CDC database from dates ranging from October 19th to November 8th. Chipotle has taken precautions to close dozens of restaurants, and fortunately, there have been no deaths so far. 21 world leaders met in the Philippines for the meeting of the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, nations. Many Filipino residents didn't exactly welcome the summit, as the already terrible traffic became even worse, and some advocated for the removal of the homeless prior to the world leaders' arrival. They had done the latter before, notably when the Pope visited the nation in January. But the arrival of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had many excited, as the new young leader drew much attention from the social media. In the end, this meeting is going to be dealing with some pretty heavy topics, such as enhancing the regional economic integration, fostering small and medium enterprise development, strengthening investment in human capital, and building sustainable and resilient communities. Finally, for tonight's science news, it has been approved by the Food and Drug Administration, most of you know that as the FDA, that genetically modified salmon is now consumable. This is the first genetically altered animal made available for the public. The modified salmon is engineered to grow twice as fast as a regular salmon. You can see here in the picture, the two salmon are actually of the same age. Through great analysis and consideration, the salmon was finally passed by the FDA. However, many environmental groups have been protesting against the approval of the GMO because of inadequate safety reasons and potential harm to the wild salmon. If the engineered fish gets out into the wild, no one is sure how it will affect the existing salmon population. One consumer advocacy group, the Center of Food Safety, even filed a lawsuit to challenge the decision. Although many are worried about the safety of the product, many scientists and analysts have dismissed many of these concerns, claiming that the GMO is safe. And that was this week's Ten10 News. I'm Andy Hong. Shout out to Team Korea for winning the first WSC Premier 12 International Baseball Tournament. Good job, America. Silver isn't bad. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back next week with more of your top 10 news in 10 minutes. Stay educated.